What's going on, Lakers Nation? Something's been unfolding in the purple and gold locker room that most people aren't fully grasping yet, and it's time we have a real conversation about it. We're sitting at 14 wins and 4 losses, second place in the Western Conference, looking like legitimate championship contenders. Yet, there's a situation brewing that could either make or break our title aspirations this season. Welcome to Lakers News Fan Report, your home for the freshest updates, the most in-depth analysis, and all the rumors surrounding our beloved Los Angeles Lakers. I need you to stay locked in because what I'm about to break down isn't just about one player or one decision. It's about the strategic direction of this entire franchise and how Rob Pelinka might be positioning us for something bigger than anyone realizes right now. Let me take you back to the beginning of this season, back to training camp, when optimism was flowing through the Lakers facility like never before. We had LeBron and AD healthy, we had a new head coach in J.J. Redick bringing fresh energy and innovative schemes, and we had a roster that looked more complete than it had in years. Among all those storylines, there was one player who was generating significant buzz within the organization, someone who was finally healthy after what felt like an eternity of rehab and setbacks. That player was entering camp with a clean bill of health for the first time in what seemed like forever, and the coaching staff was genuinely excited about what he could bring to this team. J.J. Redick, being the detail-oriented coach that he is, immediately recognized the defensive potential this player possessed. During the preseason, Redick was vocal about praising this forward's defensive instincts, his ability to guard multiple positions, his relentless motor on that end of the floor. The coaching staff viewed him as a key rotation piece, someone who could provide that defensive intensity we desperately needed when facing elite wings and forwards across the league. There was genuine belief that this player would carve out a significant role for himself, that he'd be a crucial part of our defensive identity moving forward. The expectations were high, the potential was clear, and Lakers fans had every reason to be excited about what this could mean for our championship aspirations. But here's where the story takes a turn, and this is what we need to talk about today. We're now almost 20 games into the season, and something has fundamentally changed. That player I've been building up, the one who was supposed to be a key rotation piece, the one who earned plaudits from our head coach during the preseason, has suddenly found himself on the outside looking in. I'm talking about Jared Vanderbilt, and if you've been paying close attention to our recent games, you've noticed something alarming. He's not playing. Not because of injury this time, not because of some minor setback, but because he's fallen completely out of the rotation. Now, before anyone panics or jumps to conclusions, let me walk you through exactly what's been happening and why this matters so much for our future. Jared Vanderbilt has missed 4 consecutive games, and the whispers around the league are starting to get louder. This isn't just a coach's decision to rest a veteran or manage minutes. This feels like something more permanent, something that could signal a major shift in how the Lakers view Vanderbilt's role with this team. And when you look at the numbers, when you examine his production this season, you start to understand why this change might be happening. In 14 appearances this season, Vanderbilt is averaging just 4.6 points, 5.6 rebounds, and 1 steal per game. He's shooting 44% from the field, which isn't terrible, but it's not exactly moving the needle either. For a player who was supposed to bring defensive intensity and energy, those numbers tell a story of someone who hasn't quite found his rhythm, someone who hasn't been able to make the impact we all hoped he would. And in today's NBA, where every possession matters, where every rotation spot is precious, you simply can't afford to have players on the court who aren't contributing at a high level. But here's what makes this situation so complex, so fascinating from a strategic standpoint. Vanderbilt is still on a contract that pays him $11.5 million per year, with 3 years remaining. That's not an insignificant amount of money, and it's not a contract that's easy to move in today's trade market. We're not talking about a minimum deal or an expiring contract that teams can absorb without much thought. We're talking about a multi-year commitment to a player who, despite his defensive potential, has significant limitations on the offensive end and a concerning injury history that makes teams hesitant to take on that kind of financial obligation. So where does that leave us? Where does that leave the Lakers organization as we try to maximize this championship window with LeBron James and Anthony Davis? This is where Rob Pelinka's genius as a general manager gets tested, where his ability to navigate the complexities of the modern NBA trade market becomes absolutely critical. Because here's the reality. If Vanderbilt isn't going to be part of our rotation, if he's not contributing to winning basketball games, then that $11.5 million becomes dead money on our books. It becomes a wasted roster spot, a wasted opportunity to bring in someone who can actually help us win a championship this season. And that's why the trade speculation has started to heat up. That's why people around the league are starting to connect the dots and wonder if the Lakers might be exploring options to move Vanderbilt before the trade deadline. Now, I want to be clear about something. Trading Vanderbilt isn't going to be easy. His contract, combined with his limited offensive production and injury history, makes him one of the tougher pieces to move in the entire NBA. But that doesn't mean it's impossible, and it certainly doesn't mean the Lakers aren't exploring every possible avenue to make something happen. Let me walk you through some of the scenarios that have been discussed, some of the potential landing spots that could make sense for both Vanderbilt and the Lakers. And I want you to understand something important. These aren't just random trade ideas thrown against the wall to see what sticks. These are legitimate possibilities based on team needs, roster construction, and the realities of the current trade market. So let's dive into each one and examine what they would mean for our championship aspirations. The first scenario involves the Orlando Magic, a team that's been building something special in the Eastern Conference with their young core. The proposed framework would send Jared Vanderbilt, Dalton Knecht, and a 2032 second-round pick to Orlando in exchange for Jonathan Isaac. Now, I know what some of you are thinking. Why would we trade Dalton Knecht, a promising young shooter who's shown flashes of potential? And that's a fair question. But let me explain the logic behind this move. Jonathan Isaac is one of the premier defensive big men in the entire NBA when he's healthy. We're talking about a player who averages 1.3 blocks per game for his career, someone who can protect the rim at an elite level, someone who brings exactly the kind of defensive presence in the paint that we've been missing. With Anthony Davis often playing more on the perimeter in our offensive system, having Isaac as a true rim protector would completely transform our defensive identity. He's the kind of player who makes everyone around him better on defense, who alters shots even when he doesn't block them, who strikes fear into opposing drivers. For Orlando, this trade would give them additional wing depth with Vanderbilt, even if his offensive limitations are apparent. But the real prize for them would be Dalton Knecht, a young sharpshooter with significant upside, plus that valuable second-round pick. The Magic are still in building mode, still accumulating young talent and future assets, so this package might be appealing enough for them to consider parting with Isaac, especially given his own injury concerns over the years. The second scenario involves the Indiana Pacers, and this one is particularly intriguing because it targets a player who could address multiple needs for the Lakers. The framework would send Vanderbilt, Knecht, and that same second-round pick to Indiana in exchange for Obi Toppin. Now, this trade might be the most challenging to execute because Toppin has established himself as a legitimate rotation piece for the Pacers, but hear me out on why this could work. Obi Toppin is averaging 14 points and 6.7 rebounds this season on 41.7% shooting from the field. He's an elite rim runner, someone who can finish above the rim with authority, someone who brings athleticism and energy that would fit perfectly with how we want to play. Yes, his three-point shooting has struggled this season at just 17.6%, but we've seen him shoot much better in previous years, and there's every reason to believe that playing alongside LeBron James and Anthony Davis getting cleaner looks within our offensive system, he could return to form as a perimeter threat. For Indiana, this trade would give them defensive versatility with Vanderbilt, even if his offense is limited. The Pacers have struggled defensively at times this season, and adding someone who can guard multiple positions would help address that weakness. Knecht would give them another scoring option off the bench, though he'd have to compete for minutes in what's already a deep rotation. The Pacers are currently underperforming expectations, sitting below where they thought they'd be at this point in the season, so there's a possibility they might be open to making changes if the right offer comes along. The third scenario involves the Sacramento Kings, and this one is particularly interesting given the current state of that franchise. Sacramento is reportedly open to making significant roster changes, with rumors suggesting they're taking calls on almost everyone except Nick Clifford and Keegan Murray. That kind of openness creates opportunities for teams like the Lakers to potentially bring back a familiar face who could make an immediate impact. The proposed framework would send Vanderbilt, Knecht, Thiero, and that second-round pick to Sacramento in exchange for Malik Monk. Now, for those who remember Monk's time in Los Angeles, you know exactly why this trade would be so appealing. Malik Monk was an elite scoring threat during his stint with the Lakers, someone who could get buckets in bunches, someone who brought energy and shot-making that we desperately missed after he left. This season with Sacramento, he's averaging 12.7 points, 1.7 rebounds, and 1.9 assists on 44.9% shooting from the field and 41.6% from three-point range. Those three-point shooting numbers are exactly what the Lakers need. We've struggled at times to find consistent perimeter shooting, to have that secondary shot creator who can take pressure off LeBron and AD. Monk would provide that immediately, and he already knows the system, already has chemistry with some of our core players, already understands what it means to play Lakers basketball. For Sacramento, this trade would be more about accumulating assets than about Vanderbilt specifically. Thiero is an athletic wing with elite two-way potential, the kind of developmental prospect that could pay dividends down the road. Combined with Knecht and that second-round pick, it might be enough to convince the Kings to part with Monk if they're truly committed to a roster overhaul. Now, here's where we need to have a real conversation about whether the Lakers should actually pull the trigger on any of these trades, because the situation is far more nuanced than simply saying yes or no to moving Vanderbilt. Let's look at the facts. We're 14-4, sitting second in the Western Conference, playing some of our best basketball in years. Our defensive rating has been solid, our offensive efficiency has been excellent, and we're getting contributions from throughout the roster. In that context, you could argue that we shouldn't mess with what's working, that we should ride this momentum and see where it takes us. But on the flip side, we have to acknowledge the reality that Vanderbilt isn't playing. He's not contributing to our success right now, which means that $11.5 million in salary is essentially dead weight on our books. If we could convert that into a player who actually helps us win games, who fills a legitimate need in our rotation, wouldn't that make us a better team? Wouldn't that increase our chances of winning a championship this season? The injury history is also something we can't ignore. Vanderbilt has dealt with significant setbacks over the past couple of years, and while he came into this season healthy, there's always the concern that those issues could resurface. From a risk management perspective, trading him now while he's healthy might be the smartest move, rather than waiting and potentially seeing his value decrease even further if he gets hurt again. Then there's the offensive limitation factor. In today's NBA, you simply can't hide players who can't contribute offensively. Defenses are too sophisticated, spacing is too important, and every player on the court needs to be a threat in some capacity. Vanderbilt's inability to shoot from the perimeter, his limited offensive skill set, makes it incredibly difficult to play him significant minutes against elite teams. And if we're being honest with ourselves, if we're truly trying to win a championship, we need players who can contribute on both ends of the floor. But let's also consider the alternative perspective. What if Vanderbilt figures it out? What if he finds his rhythm, gets more comfortable in J.J. Redick's system, and starts playing the kind of defense that earned him praise during training camp? What if we trade him, give up additional assets like Dalton Knecht in the process, and then watch Vanderbilt thrive somewhere else while we're left regretting the move? That's the nightmare scenario that every general manager fears, the trade that comes back to haunt you. There's also the question of timing. We're playing well right now. The chemistry is good. The locker room is positive. Do we really want to disrupt that by making a significant trade? Sometimes the best move is no move at all, especially when things are working. Rob Pelinka has shown patience in the past, has resisted the urge to make panic moves, and that discipline has served us well. Maybe the smart play here is to wait to see how things develop over the next month or two, to gather more information before making any drastic decisions. The contract situation also complicates things. With 3 years remaining at $11.5 million per year, Vanderbilt's deal is one of the toughest in the league to move. That means we'd likely have to attach additional assets to make any trade work, whether that's young players like Knecht or Thiero, or future draft picks that could be valuable down the road. Are we willing to pay that price? Are we willing to give up future flexibility for a potential upgrade right now? These are the questions that Rob Pelinka and the Lakers front office are wrestling with as we speak. What makes this situation even more complex is the fact that the players we'd be targeting in these trades all come with their own question marks. Jonathan Isaac has his own injury history, Obi Toppin is struggling with his three-point shot this season, and Malik Monk, while talented, left Sacramento for a reason and might not be the perfect fit we remember. There's no such thing as a perfect trade, no such thing as a move that doesn't involve some level of risk. The question is whether the potential reward justifies that risk, whether the upgrade we'd be getting is significant enough to warrant giving up the assets required to make it happen. I also think we need to consider the message that trading Vanderbilt would send to the rest of the roster. On one hand, it shows that the organization is serious about winning now, that they're willing to make tough decisions to improve the team. On the other hand, it could create some uncertainty in the locker room, make other players wonder about their own job security. Drop your thoughts in the comments below because I genuinely want to know how you're feeling about this situation. This is our team, our championship window, and your voice matters in this conversation. If you enjoyed this deep dive and want to stay on top of every Lakers development, every trade rumor, every strategic decision, then smash that like button and subscribe to Lakers News Fan Report. Hit that notification bell so you never miss an update because I'm bringing you the analysis and insider information that you won't find anywhere else. Share this video with your fellow Lakers fans. Let's grow this community, and let's keep the conversation going as we chase banner number 18. I'll see you in the comments, and I'll catch you in the next video. Lakers Nation, let's go!